All right, we should be live. We should be back live on YouTube. Yeah, you should be able to hear me all right, I hope. So why not open debate? Because then you kind of just gotta pick a topic. That's usually how it goes. You get the most traction that way. That's just how it goes. Yeah, the whole class got punished, exactly. One bad apple ruins the bunch or something, whatever they say. All right. Do we have any guests yet? Okay, we don't. You should do pineapple as a pizza topping. It's not. It's a sin. Pineapple does not belong on pizza. Can we do femboys versus goth mommies? We cannot. We cannot do that. What's worse than finding a worm in your apple? Great question. I don't know. I know that there's a joke here. I just don't know what the joke is. What about mayo on pizza? What is wrong with you people? More delusional. Grimlock with the $5 again. Grimlock, thank you. All right, here's to hoping that this person's not like a troll that will make the sounds that women make.
Hello?
All right, I take it that you're not going to make O sounds. So that's great. What do you believe in?
Well, is this only for like, will I have to give my argument against atheism, or I can ask a question?
I mean, you can ask questions. This is more of an open conversation, but I'd like to know what you believe first.
Oh, well, I'm like agnostic.
Oh, okay. But then it does say opposition only, right?
Yeah, sorry. That is because I just wanted to ask something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about like your view on time. Like, do you take a B theory or A theory view?
When I'm not feeling agnostic, I take a B theory view.
So you feel like that evidence leans towards B theory?
If there's evidence for either of them, it's absolutely B theory. There's not really any physics that's consistent with A theory, as far as I'm aware.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's all I had to ask.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Yeah, like, share, and subscribe, y'all. Do you believe in numerology or astrology? I do not. Those things generally seem kind of silly to me. I mean, like, I get that they have cultural impact, but like the idea, at least the Western conception of those things, numerology and astrology, are very silly. I don't know much about like the Eastern conceptions and the more indigenous conceptions. Those are a whole different ballgame, but you know, like the white girls who are like, I'm an Aquarius, which means that I can't date a Leo. Like, that's dumb. Right? Like, that's just dumb. Splunkaren. Interestingly enough, Flat Earth was my roots, actually. Right? I got my start doing TikTok debates in the Flat Earth world. For those who are longtime watchers, that is how we started. The God debate is a little bit more perennial, if you will. And so, you know, it tends to, yeah, the OG green text. Yeah, for those who have been around the whole time, there used to be just green text on a background. It's a lot less sophisticated, if you will. What about the socialism topic? I got super burnt out on politics, and that combined with the fact that keeping up with the research needed for the political debates, which I'm happy to do. I'm generally interested in politics, but the trouble with keeping up with the research is that I just don't have time for other things, right? Like it takes up a lot of time. Whereas on the God topic, I can use a lot of the knowledge that I just have from getting my PhD. Similarly, on the flat Earth topic, I can just use the knowledge that I have from getting my PhD. Similarly, on the climate change topic, it's at least somewhat more related. So it requires a smaller time investment. Mind virus is such a good hook. Yeah, it's just too vague. And again, it's I don't know. I finished my PhD a while ago. Is it possible that the universe works like a climb bottle or a Mobius strip? Probably not, because the universe is three-dimensional, whereas a Klein bottle is two-dimensional. Although if you mean topologically non-trivial, then potentially, yeah. You might meet someone, you could start a new job, be careful, you might get a ticket, don't speak. What? Should I restart on... Oh, no, I did... Wait, didn't I... I did get flagged. I should restart on TikTok, shouldn't I? Because I got flagged? Right? That's a thing? Should I restart on TikTok? Are you just answering questions? If so, what do you think of the new Claude models? I haven't really looked into Claude at all. Yeah, okay, yeah. I'll definitely restart. I'm going to restart, y'all, and I will be back. I'm not restarting on YouTube. I'm gonna restart on TikTok. I'll be right back. And I'll just talk to YouTube. Actually, let's see if we have any YouTube debaters. It doesn't look like we have any YouTube debaters. YouTube debaters. Did a commenter just try to advertise? Not that I saw, but somebody may have caught it and deleted it already. This is intimate. Nerdy rodent, this is for you. High computer load detected. I know. I'm working on it, computer. Let me close out of some other things. I'm aware that the computer load is high. Did you see Jordan Peterson versus 28 Atheists? Not only did I see it, I knew about it before everyone else did, because I'm good friends with at least two. Well, I'm friendly with one of the people on there, and good friends with two of the people on there. So they called me when they did it. They called me actually before they did it to ask some questions, or one of them did anyway. But I don't want to spoil anything like that. Welcome back. Welcome. Yeah, Danny was incredible. Danny was really, really good. Renji, I do have a PhD, yeah. I even if I had wanted to, like, I didn't even apply to be on it, because even if I wanted to, I wouldn't have been able to afford the flight. Like, it just, like, if you're in the US, it's one thing, but flying from Europe for a one-day film thing, it just doesn't make sense. Any thoughts on the double slit experiment with mirrors? I haven't looked into it yet. What's your best argument against God? Well, I mean, it depends on who I'm talking to, right? So there are a lot of arguments that I think are fairly compelling, depending on the person and depending on the God that we're talking about. If we're just talking about a deistic God, I have like evidential arguments, essentially that in a world without God, inductive arguments, essentially that all of the experiences that we have of minds, of causes, etc., are consistent with what we would expect of a naturalistic world, where the minds are attached to brains, the causes are caused, or the effects are caused by physical things. And we would have to add some extra. We would have to say, oh well, that inductive reasoning, that preformed belief, is just false. That actually there are minds that are not attached to bodies, despite all of our experience to the contrary. That is a position against the deistic God. Of course, it's not a proof. There are ways that you can argue around deistic gods as well, but it just depends on the god that we're talking about. So the argument of from evil only works if you think that your god has the triomny properties, right? That's the only time it works. All right. Well, while people are trickling in on TikTok, oh, did we get a? Oh, of course, Grimlock gave an extra $5 because, of course, he did. Because Grimlock gets a W. Always a W from Grimlock. Nobody else is live either, so I have no idea what's going on. But that's okay. I mean, like, the world is the way that it is. By the way, for those who don't know, this may be my last YouTube stream. This may be the last YouTube stream for a while, because I am going to be taking my computer into a shop and selling it tomorrow. Which means I just won't have a computer to stream on. I will probably do I will probably still do live streams on TikTok from my phone. They might be the green screen texts. We'll see. But that will probably be at least until I get my hands on another computer that can run these things, which will be at least next week. What time zones and time will lives be? I haven't figured that out yet. I'm going to try to keep them around at the same time, at least for the beginning. Yeah, I will have to buy a new PC. The downside is I have to buy a new PC. That's the downside, right? Like, I have to spend money on a new PC. Are you doing the unapologetic then? So I might. No, almost certainly I'm missing unapologetic this week. Because I will be in a hotel about to leave on a road trip back to Phoenix. If you were in Australia, I'd get one built for you. I mean, like, I know how to build a computer. It's just kind of annoying to do it, you know? And it, like, you know, 10 years ago, it was way better to build your own PC. But these days, the price difference isn't so significant that it's probably just worth it to just buy one, to just buy a new one that I can use for streaming. I also do want to play. I know Phoenix is hot. I also do intend to play Marvel Rivals and Overwatch on it, and maybe some Warzone here and there. Chris, I was in London a month ago, or 3 weeks ago. You should have said something. Audio is fine. Good. I'm glad it is. Cosmological and the tag argument are the best. Tag is the worst argument. It's genuinely the worst argument, philosophically speaking. Who are you lord on? Magic. Obama. Here's an Obama for the long-time viewers, the long-time watchers, the greatest watchers on the planet. We have an Obama and a Kamala. A Kamala. Building one is still much cheaper because you don't have to pay for the software you don't need. That's a fair point. Is London the only UK city you've been to? No, I've been to York. I was in Bath from London. Where else have I been? I've been to Cambridge. Yeah, so York, Cambridge, Bath, and London. That's where I've been. I was in York when I was a wee lad. I was in Bath 3 weeks ago. What's your opinion on the evil god problem? You'd have to be more specific. Samuel say psych. If you want to come up and join, the link is in the background. We can talk about it. Yeah, it's literally like right up here somewhere. Does quantum fluctuations not need anything as they come from nothing? Well, that depends on what you mean by nothing. You should, Samuel. I don't bite. I don't bite. I promise. You should come up. We can talk about it. Otherwise, you'll never hear my amazing refutation of tag. I'm a good-looking dude. Thank you, Joe Blow. I appreciate you. I don't have spare PC parts, but if you're ever in Manchester, I could spare a beer for you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. What time do you think you will do debate stateside? I'm going to try to stay roughly the same, at least for like a few weeks. I'm going to try to stay roughly the same time frame, but I'm going to slowly change it to a time that's more comfortable. I tried this link several times, but couldn't figure out how it works. It should be pretty easy. You type it into the box. It'll ask you if you want video on or if you don't. You can just, or it'll ask you to share your screen or to not. You just don't share your screen. It'll ask you for your name. You don't have to put your real name in. You won't automatically appear. When are you going to come back down to God's blue and green planet? I'm on it. Like AM or PM. It's late there and early here. It'll be the same time, roughly. But it depends on what my schedule ends up being. What's your favorite episode of Black Mirror? I never actually watched it. I don't know where all of the debates are though. Like it's not like anybody else is live, right? Yeah, nobody else is live. I don't know where everybody is. Huh. It's exactly what I did, but nothing happens. You sure you typed it in right? Ah, we have a guest on YouTube. Wonderful. Wonderful. Your name is agnostic. Are you agnostic? Oh. Your name is agnostic. Are you agnostic?
Yes, I'm agnostic. Good to talk to you, Dr. Blitz.
Likewise. So, what do you believe?
I have changed a lot over time. I was a Christian growing up. So if you don't want to talk for long, that's all right if you get someone better. Grew up Christian, became kind of a deist, went through the whole deconstruction phase. But for the last decade or so, I'd say I've been agnostic.
So what would you say is the what would you say is like what would you say is the difference between what your worldview is and what my worldview is?
I know a little bit about your worldview, but I'm someone who, if someone calls me an atheist, I'm fine with that. But I consider someone who actually is an atheist actually rejects the proposition of God. I'm a local atheist to many God propositions. I think the hardest proposition to reject is the Calvinist God because it's just an evil God who creates people to burn. So, I mean, it's a God not
I
worthy
think
of
Calvinists
worship,
might disagree with you, by the way.
I'm probably strawmanning them a little bit, but
a lot of it,
I'm a
yeah.
local atheist and global agnostic. So I don't know where we have disagreements if you want to flesh that out.
Yeah, I mean, so roughly my position is that I have high credence that any of the gods I've heard of don't exist. And high credence that even deistic versions of God don't exist. So that's, I mean, it doesn't seem like we actually have that much of a disagreement. I'm curious why you're significantly more agnostic towards Calvinism, though, like the Calvinist God.
Sure, because I think in the Calvinist worldview, I've debated a lot of them. I tell them there's no free will because we're vessels for destruction. I think it's Romans 9 goes over that some are created for destruction. So if this God has just created us in a world where we're following its plan, like Judas followed the plan, then it's just all a script. And I guess I shouldn't feel bad because if I feel bad, I'm just feeling bad that the God wanted me to feel bad because it's part of the plan. The world where there's free will and we can do as we want and there's a triomni God, that world I don't think can exist. So I'm an atheist to that God. But if the Calvinist God exists, I really can't know because I'm just in its scripted world. That's my view.
But I mean, don't we still have some reasons to think that, like, for example, at least inductively, we have good reason to think that there are no disembodied minds because all of the minds that we ever encounter are embodied?
I think via induction, and you probably know, is it Hume's problem of induction? So I agree with you on induction that we would rationalize, but then we get into like a black swan problem.
Well, yeah, sure, but it's at least a justification, right? I mean, like, induction isn't proof,
True.
obviously, but it does give you a justification for changing your credence, right? If, on the one hand, we encountered disembodied minds all the time, then your credence for a god existing would increase. So, justifiably, when you don't encounter disembodied minds all the time, your credence for a god should decrease.
I agree, and I think the problem is it's kind of like winning the lottery. I've never known anyone who's won the Powerball, and if there wasn't news or other things like that, I'd probably never know anyone who's won the
Mm-hmm.
Powerball. So we look at very low probability events, like let's say the probability of a disembodied mind is 1 in a Googleplex, then we would probably never encounter it in our finite time on Earth. So I agree with you. It's highly unlikely that a God exists, but I remain agnostic. I don't know. Sorry, I might not be the most interesting person to talk
Well, no,
to.
but not,
I'm fine.
then your position is basically mine.
The limit of my position mathematically approaches your position.
Great.
My position has the mathematical limit of your position. Yeah,
there we go.
like
That's
that.
exactly that's what I want. Debate 1, eat ass, get folded like a chair, destroyed. All right, take care, bud.
Thanks.
I feel like eat ass wasn't the right thing there, but it was funny. Skate fast, eat ass. All right, let's bring up a guest from TikTok because we have one. Apparently, I'm Jacob's favorite femboy streamer. Who knew? Who knew? I'm just going through my Finster phase, I guess. My Finster, I'm a boy phase or something. You heard it here first, folks. Gotta get my headphones out. Not that I need them, but they were just causing me physical pain. Eugene, how's it going?
Hey, Dr. Blitz. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing it. Well, I would say I'm doing good, but packing sucks. Setting that aside, what god do you believe in?
So recently, well, I was raised atheist. I would say I'm somewhere in the animism, solipsism, egg theory kind of combination.
Those seem like 3 different things.
Yeah, they do. They do. And it's kind of, I like to hold up different paradoxes and kind of like allow things that seem contradicting to exist simultaneously. It's actually quite fun.
Well, how do you reconcile solipsism and animism?
Yeah, so I think the way you relate with yourself is key to how you relate with all other relations.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of solipsism is the position that you believe that you are the only thing in existence.
Yeah, I think that's, as from the um, egocentric mind that has our particular type of intellect, I believe that's a good explanation for it.
So what do you mean when you say solipsism?
Um, yeah, I think that's to know something from our own individual self and from how we relate from our unique paradigm or perspective.
But I don't think that that's solipsism, right?
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
like you're just saying, to have experiences and know things from them. But that's not solipsism. Right?
yeah. I guess I mean it's a hyper egocentric trap. I think it's like it's I think and that's where, you know, I think animism is also taken into account. I feel like the way you relate is going to be unique, right? We're going to have shared ways of the way we relate with other things, but also we're going to have our own unique paradigm from our unique perspective. So
Sure.
it's difficult to explain something that is unique to our own that also is shared with all of us.
Well, in some sense, that's what language is for, right? To be able to convey
Definitely.
meaning between separate experiences. But okay, so now that I know what you mean by solipsism, what do you mean by animism?
Yeah, animism, the intelligence, in kind of quotations there, intelligence of uh, what we relate to. Well, let's use easy things, not like our human intelligence, but like plant intelligence and other animals' intelligence, um, and then goes on to the energetics, or you know, the quantum realm of even yeah, I see the big eyes there. It's hard to explain, but I like the meditation, and again, it's language, it's an artistic expression of how we explain these things, but it's going to be a little far-fetched at times. um so the yeah, the spirit in things, how things are um presenting themselves, interacting with the rest of the environment, and um
So when you say,
yeah.
like, I agree that generally speaking, animals have some degree of intelligence.
Mhm.
Would you agree that there's some, like, a hierarchy of intelligence, something like, orcas are smarter than dogs, dogs are smarter than lobsters, lobsters are smarter than, I don't know, tardigrades?
Yeah, I think there's a hierarchy of intellect from our human intellect perspective.
When I just say a hierarchy of intellect, I just mean there is some ordering of processing capability.
Yes.
Okay. And so when you were talking about, animal intelligence, is that the kind of thing that you were talking about, or were you talking about something else?
Um, so yeah, so a little bit different. Yeah. So
Can you
the
elaborate on what you
way
meant then?
they yeah. So the way that that particular animal or living being interacts with their environment, it's not going to be fully known from our unique human perspective.
Well, sure. So what you mean, you just mean the subjective experience of an animal.
Yeah, I suppose you could, yeah, that works.
And so
But
how
then
does so
animism also explains into, like, you know, minerals and rocks and elements in
well so
general,
that
and
so I was
that's
getting there. So animism
yeah,
typically means that, like, those things are the gods, right? Or the
yeah. I think
spirits,
it's
perhaps.
it's the way you relate to them and how your relationship is to it, and
So
how it changes you.
so we can talk about the other things. So what makes you think that rocks have a perspective?
They're not going to have a human perspective like we
Well,
have it.
but you
Yeah.
think that they have a perspective, right?
I think that they influence change. So in the mind, it can have a perspective from the perceiver.
I don't follow. Can you elaborate on that?
Um, yeah. So um, a recent book that I'm reading is Octavia Butler's Parable of a Sower, and I like the explanation of God is change, and
That seems
so
like
that's
more like a
one.
metaphor than like an actual description of a divine being.
True, that's right. Yes. So God is change is a metaphor. It's kind of an artistic, linguistic a way of explaining it. Um, Also, like John Lennon's "God is a concept by which we measure our pain." Um, that's a good explanation, and the intuition. versus intelligence. And I'm kind of giving a little background to kind of help maybe paint a picture of where the um, way you relate to things can change you, and that relationship and the consciousness of the relationship is then God.
So you're defining God as like an awareness of a relationship between you and something else.
Yeah, I guess that would be a good explanation from your perspective of how I define God. Yes.
Well, I don't want to straw man you, so if that's not what you mean, please correct me.
No, but it is.
Okay.
It's just hard to, like, that's the outside perspective explanation. It just
But
changes when you speak it from an inside perspective.
so I mean, like, what am I trying to say? I agree that there are relationships between my perspective of something and the outside world, right? You know, sometimes I'll see a nice shiny rock and it'll make me happy, right? Because just like a raven or a crow, I get happy when I see shiny things. And that is in some sense some relationship between myself and the rock. But how do you get from there to the divine?
Well, the relationship is mysterious, and the relationship is change. And
I don't understand that. The relationship seems pretty obvious, right? There's some external factor that is that has an effect on some internal factor, and that effect is the relationship.
certainly, but the feeling that relationship that gives you at that time, like the joy in some shiny rock, then can change over time depending on other influencing factors.
Right, it can change over time, but the relationship itself isn't change.
You're right at that moment. Yes, given that experienced time at that moment. Yes, that's correct. If you take the
So,
relationship and spread it out through your life of relating with that rock and see how it changed throughout your lifetime, then that relationship would be more fluid in what emotions it elicits, and that it would be then a picture of like some god in that way.
but I guess I just don't understand, like we have words for this, right? Like we have words for, you know, relationships, for, you know, the awe of the natural. We have language to describe this, but it seems like, at least, you know, and we do live, from your voice I can tell that you live in the West as I do, or at least you were born in the West. We live in a world where when people say God, they mean a specific kind of supernatural thing or collection of supernatural things. And I just don't see where, or perhaps divine things, I just don't see where we get supernaturalness or where we get the divine here. And maybe this is just a
Yeah,
disagreement on definitions, but I just don't
yeah, I
see it.
don't. I actually agree with you. I guess the only part of it that is supernatural would be, or divine would be, uh, not knowing what we don't know.
But is ignorance really divine?
No, no. The divinity is the. I think it's the pursuit of knowledge.
How do you mean, what do you mean that you think that that is divinity?
Well, I think that learning and the pursuit of knowledge is elicits great joy and expands capacity for interacting with our environment, and I believe that that's divine.
Well, like, I mean, metaphorically speaking, I'd agree with you. But if we just look up like a divine, like the definition of divine, I don't think that that would fit, right? Not to be like a language prescriptivist, but like divine is, you know, okay. Actually, this is not a helpful definition because it says of or like God or a god, so it becomes circular. Let's see if we can find a better definition. Um, that is not circular on the notion of divinity.
Yeah, I don't like that quote of ignorance is bliss. That little idiom or saying.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not a fan of.
okay, so maybe we shouldn't use the word divine then, because divine is, at least the way it's traditionally understood, is just of or relating to a god or a deity. So maybe I should say supernatural. So
Right.
I mean, typically a Western conception of God, or in fact, this is even true of many Eastern conceptions. Many conceptions of God have God as a supernatural entity of some kind, or as several supernatural entities, right?
Yeah.
So where's the supernatural in your worldview, or would you say that this is just not a
It's
definition that applies here?
Well, the supernatural is specifically in the mind, which holds the infinite.
Well, I
So
don't think that.
I think that
Wait, hold on. What do you mean by holds the holds the
no,
infinite?
it holds the infinite. Yeah. So the mind, kind of, everything and anything can go as a way of thought experiments, and that's where I think metaphors
I
and
don't think
mythologies.
everything can.
No,
No, in fact, I can give you an example of something that can't.
please do.
Suppose that you counted the prime numbers up to Graham's the prime number that is the Graham's numberth prime number, right?
Mm.
So you were just
Okay, I see what
thinking
you're
about
saying.
them.
Yes.
Now, if you tried to do that, your brain would collapse into a black hole before you even got 1% of the way there.
Right. So that's where you create symbols for that expression, and that's how
No, but
you
the thought
kind of.
experiment is imagining yourself actually doing it,
Yeah.
and that's not possible,
Yeah.
right?
Well, not yeah. That's only if you create a whole other kind of existences in the mind, where then it's possible. But yes, that's not practical. At least, well,
I mean, like, the
arguably.
point is as far as I'm concerned, the brain, even if you believe that the mind is something that's kind of attached to the brain but is separate, certainly the brain is a finite thing, so it can't do
Definitely.
anything. It can do a lot of things. It
Yeah.
is very, very powerful, but it can't do everything.
No, I agree. That's true. It's very finite, and even just expressing into words different ideas and a concept um, is an artistic endeavor. I think that's quite divine.
Well, I mean, if you're using it in a metaphorical sense, I would agree with you. I just think that, like, I just think that can be confusing. That's all.
Yeah. I agree. It is really confusing. And as you could probably tell, and I think the commenters here, my thoughts aren't completely nailed out. I have a lot to learn yet. And I love Atheist. I love your channel, Dr. Blitz. I
I appreciate that.
appreciate, actually, I've seen a number of different discussion boards of this nature and atheisms. And you guys are so great. I love it. And
Well, you know who's the best? The best is Ian and Justin. And Danny. Danny's
okay,
actually the
I'll look into it.
best. But he doesn't go live very often. I sorry,
those on
I'm
the
biased.
top?
I'm definitely just telling you about my friends who do this.
All right, Ian and
but
Justin,
Ian and Justin and
atheist
Danny,
channels.
they're all
Okay.
wonderful. And there's other people who are wonderful, but I know them less well. Eugene, I'm gonna let you go because there are some people
Yeah,
in the guest queue that I'd like to talk to. But thanks for being here, bud.
thanks for letting me chat. Good talking
Take
with
care.
you. You too.
I don't know Mezzo and Joel as well. I wish I did, but I just don't because they're rarely live when I'm awake. So I haven't even really watched them, but I have heard Mezzo's voice, and both Mezzo and Joel's voices are very pleasant. Like, they have good voices. Remember, y'all, to like the live, to send it out to all of your friends, to spam that like button, to subscribe, to watch, all of these things that you should do to send this out. Do it. All right, let's talk to Planet Lawa.
Hello, how are you doing? All right?
I'm doing all right. What god do you believe in?
I believe in the true God of which is from the Christian and Jewish faith.
Are you Christian or are you Jewish?
I'm a believer in the true faiths. So Judaism is the start of the Abrahamic faith, and Christianity is just a continuation of the Jewish scriptures. But
Well,
someone
Jews would
formed
disagree
the
with you
term
on
Christianity. I know they can disagree, but it was supposed to be a continuation of the Jewish scriptures, and Jesus didn't actually make the term Christianity. But
So to be
they,
clear, do you think that God is a Trinity?
I know that God is a Trinity, but
Okay,
the
then you're a
concept
Christian.
is more
That's
of it's more of a circular concept where it represents God, the angels, the descendants, and all life forms within it, which represents oneness.
Okay, so you're a Christian. It's fine.
But if I believe in Judaism as well, what would that make me?
You don't. If you think that Jesus died for your sins, you're not a Jew. You're just not.
But if the scriptures in the Jewish Torah is from the Word of God, and I believe that as well, so
That's
can I
what
not believe
Christians
in?
believe that. Christians believe that too,
Yeah, so-
although they kind of don't really, but they kind of pick and choose. But the point is Christians believe that, in some sense, everything that Jewish people believe, and then extra things on top of it. So you're a
Yeah,
Christian,
like I'm
that's
saying,
fine.
a lot of Christians are misinformed about stuff, but it's just something. As long as they believe in the true God, they should be alright.
Okay. So
Okay, yeah.
what would you? So it's just I don't know why that is. I don't know why that was like pulling teeth. But what would you say is the most compelling thing you could tell me to make me believe what you believe?
Basically, I've got evidence and I've got confirmation that God created the galaxy using advanced nuclear propulsion system. This process was almost instantaneous, but
Are you
the
sure you're not
formation did take
Mormon?
6 days. Sorry?
Are you sure you're not Mormon?
I'm actually I'm Multamaran. That's a believer and knower of the true faiths. So you can understand that there was faiths before Christianity and Judaism, which was from the Word of God, and I'm a believer of all the true faiths.
Does that include
by
Mormonism?
God. I haven't gone into detail, but because I've explored a lot of faiths, and I'm still doing a lot of research into other true faiths confirmed by God.
So
But I need to
do
look
have
more into it.
I have a minor request. Your audio has a lot of noise. Is there a way that you can fix that?
Yeah. Is this better? Can you hear me
Oh,
clearly?
it's so much better. Thank you.
My headphones.
Yeah, no, you're good. Okay, so you think that God created the galaxy with what now?
Advanced nuclear propulsion system.
Okay, and what is the evidence for this claim?
I've got my scientific evidence. Also, there are some scientists who
What's the scientific
know.
evidence? That's what I want to know.
So they've got scientific evidence confirming this, but
No,
they
I
are
want to
hiding
know.
it from the
So
public.
I don't want you to just say that other scientists have evidence of this. I just want to know what is the evidence.
The evidence is just that they've confirmed that it is from an explosion similar to Big Bang. They are trying to state it's a.
Wait, so
it's like Big Bang,
what's
but-
it? Are you saying that the galaxy is from an explosion?
Yeah. So, do you know what advanced nuclear propulsion system is?
No, you'd have to be more specific.
Yes, it's just advanced scientific technology that some scientists now are trying to work and develop, where it creates natural life forms.
Wait a minute. So it doesn't have anything to do with nuclear fission or fusion?
Yeah, and I think you know what it is, don't you?
No, I don't.
Okay, so in regards to that,
Can you
do
describe like the nuclear process that takes place in these propulsion systems?
It's just a detailed explosion, a nuclear explosion, which creates a life within it, and it creates.
How does
everything
that work?
instantly.
How does a nuclear explosion create life?
It's designed to it's programmed before using advanced quantum computing, which gives the details in how to create the galaxy, and then all the components are put in it within it, and then it will create it instantaneously.
Okay, so
But like I said,
what's the
God-
evidentiary basis for any of this?
Like I'm saying, the scientists know this, but they're hiding it from people.
Can you name one of the scientists?
So basically, there's a lot of scientists, but they describe it as the Big Bang, so they're lying to us.
But you know better. How do you know that they're lying?
Yeah. Because I've got in contact with some people above the governments, which are
Oh, people
forms
above
of
the government. Who are they? Can you give me some names?
they, they're angels. Have you seen the orbs recently in the sky?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so you haven't seen any TikTok videos or anything that
Nope.
just show so you've just been just sitting in your own life then.
No, I just don't get the content that you get. I don't get conspiracy theory stuff.
Well, it's not a conspiracy theory if there's video evidence of it and the governments that are aware of them. Is that a conspiracy theory?
Could be, yeah.
Okay, so I'll just say that the orbs are angels and they're around the planet, and they're the reason why everyone's still alive. And
The orbs are
yeah,
angels. So, do you have any evidence of this, or is this just like
yeah,
stuff that
yeah,
it's just like trust me, bro?
I've got evidence on my channel, which can
Okay, no free
differentiate.
clout. What evidence
No,
can
I'm
you
just
give me
saying
right now?
I've got video evidence on my channel.
What evidence can you give me right now? What evidence can you tell me about?
What, the angels?
Evidence, any kind.
Like I'm saying, I've got evidence. The government's got evidence.
Well,
What
no,
else do you need?
you claim the government has evidence, but you claim that they're hiding it. So you would never, so no one else would be able to find that evidence, right?
No, the government is not hiding it. They've been using their lower technology, trying to
And where's the
replicate
evidence
all-
of that?
There's plenty of evidence.
Okay, tell me, where is it? What is it?
On TikTok, type in orbs.
I'm sorry. Maybe our epistemologies are different, but I don't get my evidence from TikTok.
Okay, but check what the scientists have checked, and they've confirmed
Wait,
that
can you
it's not
name
government
can you name one of the scientists?
I forgot their name. They're two scientists.
Yeah, so
And
who?
they
Where are
confirm-
they
they
from?
confirm-
What university are they associated with?
Sorry, I forgot their name, but they confirmed that they are not government technology, and they use anti-gravitational propulsion systems
Who?
to
Maybe so why not
scientists.
minimize the app, go find it, and then come back and tell me.
It's all right. So just wanted to ask you in regards to how do you believe the universe was created?
I don't know if it was created.
So what is your assumption in how the galaxy was formed?
Oh, well, the galaxy formed gravitationally. That's the general understanding, that you have some sort of dark matter seed that forms the basis of a galaxy to form, and as a result of that dark matter seed having higher gravity than the surrounding regions, it accumulates gas, it accumulates dust, which forms the basis for stars.
And how was that created, do you think?
How was what created? The dark matter seeds?
Yeah, the initial formation of it.
I'm not sure. I'm not a galaxy formation physicist, so I don't know all
Okay,
the
so
intricate details.
So do you believe the precise structure of the universe, like gravity, light, speed, DNA, is purely random?
No?
So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I lean towards them being necessary.
So is your assumption based on that everything, the galaxy, how it was formed, and everything that happened after was due to random occurrences?
No.
How is it formatted then?
I lean towards it being determined to be that way based off of the earlier conditions.
So everything is just random.
No, it's not random. It's the opposite of random. It's determined.
So what determines it?
The laws of physics.
Where did the law of physics come from? Random.
I lean towards them having always existed.
So you think they always existed?
Yeah, insofar as the
Like,
relations between entities has always existed in the same form.
So a detailed natural logic was just randomly formatted.
Well, I don't think it's like a natural logic. I think that they're objects with certain powers and dispositions, and those powers and dispositions have always existed. And the way that those powers and dispositions interact with each other is what we call the laws of physics.
So you're saying everything that's formatted when it comes to humans, animals, it's just always just been random, and it's just...
No, I
just came
never
into
said the word
existence.
random, no.
I think you do believe that the universe is random. Could you
No, I
just
don't.
clarify that?
I am a determinist. I do not think that there's anything random in the universe.
But you're saying everything is just randomly has logic, a natural law to it. It's just
Nope,
random.
I don't think it's random. I think that the natural dispositions of the things that make up our universe are necessary.
It's just necessary and nothing. There was no design to it. Do you
Right.
believe that there is a possibility of a design of a creator?
I don't think that there is a design, no.
So do you think that there is a possibility for a designer?
In the same way that I think there's a possibility that 2 + 2 = 5.
So are you saying that you're confirming that there's no creator or a higher being, an advanced, supreme, extremely supreme hominoid that created the universe? Is that your final confirmation?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So are you confirming that an extremely advanced, supreme hominoid didn't create the galaxy using advanced nuclear propulsion system? And is
Yes,
that the way,
I think that is false.
have you got any evidence to disprove that claim? My factual claim?
I mean, the claim that you're making kind of disproves itself. We know how the universe, we know how the galaxy formed, and it doesn't involve a humanoid or a hominoid or whatever you called it.
Where are you getting that information from?
From galaxy surveys.
And have you conducted the scientific tests yourself?
No, I know the people who have.
So you're just stating sources that people are giving you? Is that right?
Well, yeah, that's how we do science.
So so you just take information given as facts without even confirming it yourself, and then you state that to other people as facts. Is that what you do?
I mean, that's part of science. Yeah, one scientist will do a scientific experiment. Another scientist will repeat that experiment, verify it or de-verify or falsify it. If they verify it, the rest of the scientific community basically says, kudos to you. We'll add that to the collection of scientific knowledge.
And do we?
That's how the whole process works. Yeah.
Do we just trust everyone's opinion and what they?
No, that's why we have independent scientists who do verification.
But you haven't conducted any scientific tests yourself.
I don't need to, as long as sufficiently many independent people have. But by the way, I have conducted scientific experiments. To claim otherwise is a little bit silly.
I know you have. But I know you haven't conducted this.
So to be clear, you just believe what the people tell you, whether they're angels or whether they're the secret scientists of the government, right?
Yeah, and I haven't been disproven yet.
Well, but the point is that the data that you're presenting seems to conflict with the observational data of how galaxies form. So, and
I'm telling you that the scientists are not being truthful with that.
I know them personally.
Well, I don't know if you know them personally. Then what does that mean then?
It means that I have better reason to know their disposition towards lying than you do.
Just be careful in how you phrase your stuff anyway. But anyway, let me be
careful in how I phrase my stuff. What?
In regards to the Bible, do you think any of that is factual, historical information?
I mean, perhaps some of it, like Jesus was probably a guy that got crucified. So I don't think he rose from the dead.
So do you believe that Jesus did? So you don't believe he got resurrected?
I do not think that he got resurrected.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you Jesus did get resurrected, which happened prior. It wasn't actually in that.
Okay, what's the evidence for that claim?
I've got my evidence, and the scientists currently working now.
Wait, what's the evidence?
The evidence is I've got the evidence.
That's not evidence. You have to tell me what the evidence is.
The scientists have got that evidence as well.
Okay, what's the evidence?
The scientists are now trying to
so we're trusting the scientists now.
No, I'm just telling you what I know. So some of the scientists.
So what's the evidence
of them trying to attempt resurrection?
Okay, so what's the evidence that Jesus resurrected?
The evidence is that I've got my evidence.
Okay, so give it to me. Tell me what it is.
The scientists know.
I don't care what the scientists know. I want you to tell me what the evidence is.
The evidence is I just know that it's possible to resurrect living organisms.
That's not evidence that Jesus resurrected, by the way.
Do you believe it's possible in the future to resurrect living organisms?
Perhaps, but again, still not evidence that Jesus resurrected.
So with with that evidence,
That's
you're
not
saying
evidence that
perhaps
Jesus resurrected.
which scientists are trying to attempt. That was the way.
None of this has anything to do with
Jesus-
whether or not Jesus resurrected.
that's the way Jesus got resurrected. And
Right,
God,
right. That's the claim. What's the evidence for that?
He used advanced science.
What's the
resurrect
evidence for that?
him. There is. I just know it. So
just trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. Or
ask the scientists about their them
I
attempting to resurrect.
I have talked to scientists, and the vast majority of scientists don't think it happened.
They're lying. That's why.
Oh, okay. But the scientists that I know personally are definitely lying to me, right? The people who are my friends are definitely lying to me.
I don't trust most of you scientists, to be honest.
Oh, but you trust the ones that agree with you, right?
No, I don't trust.
Oh, but then why do you say that the scientists have evidence if you don't trust them?
Because I know I've got confirmation by the angels that they got evidence.
How do you know that the angels are telling the truth?
Because I know that they're telling the truth.
Oh, how do you know?
Because I've been through some things that people won't be able to comprehend.
But angels are known to lie. In fact, there was a really famous angel who lied a lot. His name was Satan.
Yes, I know.
I don't know. How can you trust the angels? They might be lying. These might be fallen angels. In fact, if they're on Earth, it seems like they would be fallen angels.
I've seen through the most negative individuals to the most positive individuals. I'm fully aware how to clarify.
That's what they want you to think.
Okay.
That's what they want you to think. They want you to think that they're positive and negative, but you know, they're just all bad.
So do you know that there are angels around me then?
Oh yeah, but they're demons. They're all lying to you.
So do you know that there's some things around me?
Yeah, demons. It's demons that are around you.
So do you know that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's talk about consciousness. Do you know what consciousness is?
Hold on. No, we're not getting away from the fact that you've been deceived by the demons.
Okay, that's great. I'm still alive, aren't I?
Yeah, that's what you think. This is actually a hell loop. You're in hell right now.
Am I dead now?
You're in hell. This is a hell loop. 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 This is a hell loop.
Might be for some.
You're right. It is. All right, let's bring on another guest from YouTube. All right. Bob, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing all right. Can you hear me all right, Bob?
Can you hear me?
I can. What God do you believe in?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. What God do you believe in?
The Christian Trinity.
Okay, cool. So what would you think is the most compelling thing you could tell me that would make me believe that your God is correct? Or is real?
Yeah, to me, the most compelling thing is the longevity of the practice of faith itself, the list of martyrs, and then some of the physical evidence.
So which do you think is the most compelling?
To me personally right now...
No, which do you think will be the most compelling to me?
The Shroud of Turin.
Okay, what about it?
Since you come from a scientific background, I would imagine that the Shroud of Turin would probably be the most compelling to you.
Yeah, so what about it is compelling too?
Do you know what the Shroud of Turin is?
I do.
So, what do you think? You want to know what I think would be most compelling about that for you?
Yeah, I mean, like, what's your view on it? Like, I mean, I have my view on it. What's your view on it?
I guess my view on it is that it used to be, I guess, I don't know, decades ago was seen as like a forgery, but then they've re-examined the cloth and the image itself, and basically scientists can't come up with a reason for how the image is what it is. Like if they basically have confirmed that cloth is from a like first century, is from the first century based on the weave and the material, but they cannot.
That's strange. I heard the opposite.
conclude how that-
So I heard that based off
Right,
of the
that
weave,
used-
which is
that
a
used to be the
herringbone.
claim.
It's a herringbone weave, and that didn't exist until the medieval age.
Right, that was the original thought, and then they re-examined it.
So did the weave
and they have
change?
confirmed that that's not the case.
Did the weave change, or
The weave was misexamined. It was an error.
so
that
now
the
so
original
now the
claim.
claim is that the weave actually is potentially first century, although it could have still been 13th or 14th century, right?
Yeah.
So my understanding of the Shroud of Turin is that we actually. Are you familiar with when the Shroud of Turin first entered the historical record?
I don't know exactly, but it's
Is-
what
if I remember correctly,
20th century.
No. If I remember correctly, it was 1356, but I can verify that for you.
Oh, it's okay.
1354. Sorry, that was the first case where it entered the historical record, and I guess this was in France. And you know what happened when it was, exhibited? So what happened is that it showed up in a church. It was like an exhibit in a church in France. And you know what happened when, like that happened, after that happened? It was called a forgery back then,
After it showed
too.
up in the church?
Yeah, it was called a forgery. And not only that,
Right.
they got a confession from the person who did the forgery.
Who's the person that confessed?
We don't have a name, but we have the writing of somebody who identified the artist who made it. So this is the Bishop of Troyes.
The Bishop of Troyes?
Yeah, this was in 1390. And he claims to have identified the artist who made it in 1390.
Well, I mean that's decent counter evidence, but I mean we're going off of a claim. So
This was a bishop, right? This is a Catholic bishop.
sure, but he could have been against the Roman Church. Whenever there's whenever there's physical evidence for any like quote unquote miracle that's presented to the Vatican, there's always like skepticism from the Vatican. So there's always going to be bishops and cardinals that are going to voice negative opinion. It's the same with Padre Pio's stigmata.
But I mean, like, this is, if the first time it shows up in the historical record, like 2 decades afterwards, it gets, an investigation is conducted by the local bishop who determines that it's a forgery and identifies the person who did the forging. And then when we carbon date it, we get mid-1300s. I mean, that seems like a weird coincidence.
Well, there's no pigments or paints or dyes on the cloth. So to me, the claim that this was done by like an
How do you
artist
figure?
and it's using, that's been confirmed.
In what way? Because I've seen a reproduction that used
that's-
ochre, and it looks the same to me.
That's just that's like official record of
That there's no
Shroud.
pigments or dyes. I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty
image-
sure that they haven't tested the bulk of the shroud.
Yeah,
That
used to
they weren't
sample
allowed to.
with what?
That they weren't allowed to
sample?
test the bulk of the bulk of the shroud. That's why the original carbon dating in the 80s was like just a tiny corner.
right, and they discovered that the original sample that they tested back in the 80s wasn't even a real sample.
How do you figure?
If my memory serves me right.
But like what's the evidence of that?
Because they performed studies like 2 or 3 years ago, and
Who?
it comes up with completely different data.
I mean, because I haven't seen any carbon dating that contradicts the carbon dating from the 80s. And like that would be like the surefire way to test it, right? Just carbon date it. It's made of fabric. We can carbon date fabric. Why not just do it?
They said there's a 2022 X-ray study that was performed of the cloth that leads investigators to believe that the cloth is 2000.
Wait, was this the Italian group that had their paper retracted?
Carbon dating methodology.
Hold on, I think that this might be the Italian. Yeah, this is the Italian paper. This was the Italian paper that was written by the group of people who had to retract a paper on the same topic.
Why'd they have to retract it?
Because it had bad methodology.
What was their methodology?
I can go find it if you want. It was like a whole thing. Yeah. Okay. So this was in 2018. So this is on a website called Retraction Watch, which just kind of records papers being retracted. Overall, so the article, I'll just show you what it's called. I'll just show you the thing. Or no, you can't see because you're on YouTube. That's fine. I'll read it. So the title of the article on Retraction Watch is Over Author's Objections +1, which is the name of the journal, retracts paper claiming Shroud of Turin showed evidence of trauma. So a year ago, this was written in 2000. When was this written? This was written in 2018. So the year ago was 2017. So in 2017, +1 published a study claiming that there was strong evidence that a person wrapped in the Shroud of Turin, according to lore, the burial shroud of Jesus Christ, had suffered strong polytrauma. Today, they retracted it. According to the retraction notice for atomic resolution studies detect new biologic evidences on the Shroud of Turin, this is the retraction notice. Concerns have been raised that the data presented in this article are not sufficient to support the conclusions drawn. The provenance, integrity, and availability of the material used for the study have also been questioned. The editors, it continued, are concerned that there are not sufficient controls to support conclusions referring to human blood or physical trauma. For example, period ink and animal blood controls were not included in diffraction and stem analyses, as would be needed to rule out alternate interpretations regarding the material on the fiber. And the creatinine findings do not provide definitive evidence of trauma or violence. Thus, we consider that the main conclusions of the article, including the following statements, are not sufficiently supported. Now they quote what the findings were. On the basis of the experimental evidence of our atomic resolution TEM studies, the man wrapped in the TS suffered a strong polytrauma. Quote, the fiber was soaked with a blood serum typical of a human organism that suffered a strong trauma. Quote, at the nanoscale, it is encoded a scenario, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they go on for a while as to why they retracted it. But the point is that this paper that was retracted was written by the same people who wrote the paper you just cited. Which should give you very, very strong pause that...
I don't even know if we're talking about the same... I don't know.
We're talking about the same authors. We're talking about the same authors here.
Study.
No, it's a different study. Same authors.
Liberato De Caro?
Yes.
It's Liberato De Caro.
Yep.
I wish I could see your screen.
And Giulio Fanti, by the way, were also the authors on this. E. Carolino, L. De Caro, C. Giannini, and G. Fanti were the authors on this paper that were retracted. And Giannini, Fanti, and De Caro were also authors on this paper that you just cited.
Did you just Google this?
I'm familiar with this. This is something I read about years ago.
Because I simply just Googled Liberato De Caro study pooled, and nothing is coming up.
Yeah, so
about like controversy or...
So if you type in Shroud of Turin paper retracted, type in Shroud of Turin paper retracted into Google, it was the first link for me. But I have it in I can send you a link. Actually, yeah, let me just send you a link in the chat room. Yeah, here's the link.
Okay. Let me just pull that up. What's the date on this? 2018.
2018. Yeah, the paper was published in 2017, if I remember correctly.
This is not the same. Yeah,
it's not the same paper.
Study.
It's the same. I know. It's the same authors.
Yeah, this is a 2022.
I know. It's the same authors. That's the problem.
You're saying, so what you're saying is that the study that was done in, are you saying that the study that was done in 2017 that then got pulled in 2018, these are the same, this is the same group that did the 2022 study?
Yes.
So you're saying the 2022 study
we should be very suspect
like,
of it.
We should be
yes. Yeah, we should be
we
very
look at the
suspect of it.
methodology.
Are you a forensic biologist? Are you a physicist? Because I imagine that they're using physics methods. Like, are you equipped to evaluate the methodology here?
I'm a biologist.
Okay.
I'm a biologist.
So what methods did they use?
But for what? I
for this
haven't gone
2022
into the
study.
depth of I don't know. It just I know they did. It says they performed an X-ray study.
So that sounds like physics.
And
where was this published? This was in Heritage.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume it's a.
No. Heritage is fine. It's published by MDPI, which is a little bit suspect. But the point is that we should be like. So you're a biologist. You're published presumably in some biological journals.
Oh, I'm not. I mean, I'm not a. I have a bachelor's in science and biology, but I'm not a researcher.
Oh, okay.
I work in the private sector. I work in pharmaceuticals.
Okay, no worries. So one of the things that
So I guess I'm not really a biologist, but
no, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, if you work in pharmaceuticals, it's at least closely related. This is all to say, when you see somebody is writing, when somebody writes a paper and then it gets retracted for the reasons written, which is like pretty damning, like that the analysis was just bad, is essentially what the retraction notice says. And then the same group of authors writes another paper making the same claims with a different methodology. That just screams of bias to me. That like we shouldn't really, like, why is it only this group that's doing these studies? Why isn't there like some independent group that's coming to the same conclusions? That should ring alarm bells in your head.
Well, I genuinely haven't done like the in-depth research to I haven't read about like the 2017 study. I guess that's like which talks about like the blood and whatnot. I didn't even know about that one. I just knew about this like more recent 2022 study. So right. I mean, yeah, there definitely needs to be a level of scrutiny with the X-ray dating that we should apply.
I mean, it like
from a general standpoint, the fact that
go ahead.
The fact that it's not, to me, it appears that there isn't a consensus that this is a forgery or that this is confirmed from the 14th, 13th century.
I actually think that there is consensus. Just the consensus amongst scientists is that it was, but amongst Christians, it's that of course it's real, because if it's real, that means that Jesus actually did rise from the dead.
Well, the consensus based on the like carbon dating that was performed from the 80s.
The carbon dating, the historical record. There have been other papers as well that do like reproductions. There's one by Matt Barini and Luigi Garlascelli. I can't say it. Italian names are so hard. Garlascelli, where they actually do a reproduction using red ochre. So like, there's a lot of like different kind of angles of evidence pointing at that. Yeah, this is obviously obviously a fake that was produced in the 1300s. And then it just seems like people always like the people who say, oh, but there's no consensus. Like they just point at this like one Italian group that had to retract a paper 8 years ago and then put it on another paper 3 years ago.
There's no consensus on how the image was created. There's no pigment or dye.
Can you link me a study on that?
This we know.
Well, because I haven't heard anybody actually support that claim.
Yeah.
So is there like a source for that claim?
Give me 5 minutes,
Sure.
or however long it takes for me to find. My computer, my browser's ass, and it auto defaults to Yahoo instead of Google, which is annoying. I mean, it's probably going to take me a minute. Or
You're
there
fine.
might not be
So-
any, like, there might
so I
not be
did
an
s-
official paper on
So I did
the
some digging.
examination of the image.
So I did some digging. It looks like the only time that there was actually pigments being tested was by samples taken by a man named Walter McCrone. And Walter McCrone found that there was a dilute pigment of red ochre in a collagen tempera medium. And then somebody else took those same samples and they said, no, there aren't these things. And then somebody else took those same samples and said, actually, there is red ochre, which is a type of iron oxide, but we're not sure if that's actually the cause of the images. So at best, it seems like they're not sure what the pigments are, because the last time they took samples was, 50 years ago.
All right, well, I'll concede the Shroud of Turin for now, since
Okay.
since there's no consensus, and the Catholic Church doesn't even officially canonize the Shroud of Turin as.
Why would they?
As like, why would they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is all to say, like,
What do you mean,
if it
why
were
would- what do you
real,
mean, why would they?
if there was compelling evidence that it were real, of course, why wouldn't they dive onto it?
That's the point.
So that should make
but
you
they
think that
also
there isn't
haven't-
compelling evidence that it's real.
No, because then they would have written it off. It's in like a limbo state. They do this.
Didn't
with,
they? Wait, didn't they write it off?
they do
Isn't
this
that
with
like the
Eucharistic
whole?
No. They do this with Eucharistic miracles as well. It's still in like a state of research.
Well, but I mean, this has been researched for 50 years, right?
Correct.
So the Vatican
And it's
position.
still in a state of limbo.
So I'm just curious what the Vatican position is. Since it is not a matter of faith, the Church has. This is Pope John Paul II. The Church has no specific competence to pronounce on these questions. She entrusts to scientists the task of continuing to investigate so that satisfactory answers may be found to the questions connected with the sheet. The shroud is an image, blah, 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 blah. There's an exposition. Pope Francis recorded a message, video message for the occasion. Yeah, so the Pope Francis said, "The man of the shroud invites us to contemplate Jesus of Nazareth."
Right.
Very carefully worded, right? But yeah, okay. So but like it's been studied for 50 years. It seems like if they had decided that it was real, then they would have, decided on it, right? But they didn't. So,
well, the Catholic Church has no. They're not in a rush.
Okay.
It takes,
anyway,
it takes the church like decades to claim miracles before they take an official stance. And something as big as this, I'm not surprised it's still sitting in kind of like a gray area.
Okay. So if you want
It's
to talk
like
about something else, we
it's like
can.
a Schrodinger. Yeah, I
Don't
mean,
do it. Don't do that to me.
What, the
The
Schrodinger?
Schrodinger bit, yeah. Don't do it to me.
It's Schrodinger's shroud. That's what we can say at this point.
They hit the second plane, sir. We're under attack.
Yeah, see, I'm trying to come to you as like the friendly Christian, the friendly Catholic.
I appreciate that.
I think a problem with a lot of Christians is that they get very offended, and if you're confident in your belief, then you shouldn't really be offended.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Yeah. What else do we want to talk about? I mean, we can also talk about the martyrs, the amount of people who, the apostles, and then the first, second, third century Christians who did not deny their faith and accepted, pretty brutal deaths.
So,
I
with
guess
regards,
there's always a argument to be made, like, how do we know they actually died like this? But
well, so surely the martyrs after Jesus, the martyrs who were born after Jesus died, surely those martyrs, they're not evidence of anything, right? Because they wouldn't have witnessed it firsthand if it actually happened, right?
they didn't witness it firsthand, but you could, I guess, like late first century, early second century martyrs who were taught and had contact with those that did claim to see Jesus.
Right, but if they didn't witness it
residual
firsthand, then they're no different from any martyr who just dies for what they believe, having not had, firsthand evidence of it, right? Like, there are plenty of
Right.
people who die for what they believe today based off of things that they heard 800 years ago, or from 1800 years ago, right? So, like, if they didn't see it firsthand, it's just not worth much, because people die for wrong things all the time. The question
Right,
is
so you
about,
can-
what about the people who supposedly would have been there, who would have seen it firsthand? That's an important question, right?
Yeah.
So, which martyrs do you have in mind?
Peter, Paul. Actually, I don't. Peter's the most famous one for the way he died and the way he was.
So, how was
Ignatius
Peter
of
martyred?
Ignatius of Antioch.
How was Peter martyred? I can never keep them straight.
Peter was the one who was crucified upside down.
And where does what text do we have for that? Is this the one in Acts?
I don't know if it's in the Bible.
Oh. Do we have, what source do we have for it?
Peter's crucifixion.
Yeah.
I don't know what like the official source is. Much like any source for anything that happened in the first century, but it is understood that that's how Peter died.
Understood by who? I mean, surely understood by the church, but like, lots of things are understood by the church that I don't think are true.
I mean, his death is recorded to have happened in Rome.
But where? Where was it recorded?
Where was his death?
Oh, it was it's in Acts of Peter. That's the text where he was crucified upside down. But Acts of Peter, isn't that the one where there's a talking cross? This is Apocrypha. This is Apocrypha. It's not part of the Bible. Yeah. So Peter's cross talks in Acts of Peter. So the same text where we see that he was crucified upside down, and that's the source as far as I know, is the text where there's a talking cross. I don't know, like, just seems not reputable.
It speaks to, according to this article, it says the first indication of Peter dying by crucifixion comes directly from verses in John.
Which verse?
John 21.
Okay.
18.
John 21:18. All right, let's see what John 21 it says. Verily I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted, but when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go.
Is
What?
that just John 21:18?
Yeah, it's John 21:18.
What's 19 say?
Well, let me pull up the full chapter. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me."
So essentially, they're saying that verse can speak towards his crucifixion.
Maybe if you squint at it.
Well, I guess that verse is speaking to the fact that his death will not be one he wants.
Sure. Maybe. But the upside down cross
Maybe.
business.
The way that, to me, the way that reads, it says you will be going to a place you do not want to go.
Well, I don't think anybody really wants to die, so.
No one wants to die, but no one wants to die horribly.
I mean, I don't want to die, period. I mean, like, I will, but, like, I'd rather not, right? I mean, I'd rather die less horribly than more horribly, but, like...
That's your personal opinion.
You want to die?
Don't want to die. I don't want to live forever.
Well, I don't know if I want to live forever, but I definitely don't want to die now.
Well, yeah, you don't want to die now. You're what? I don't know, probably in your 30s or late 20s or something.
I'm 31, thank you.
Okay.
Good guess.
Yeah. So of course you biologically don't want to die.
Yeah.
When you get to 90, if you get to 90, you probably will be leaning more towards I'm ready to be done.
Yeah, maybe. So it looks like the earliest non-apocryphal text that we have that actually explicitly says that Jesus or that Peter was crucified was Tertullian. Now, this would have happened, if Peter was crucified in, say, the year 64. That's what early church tradition apparently says. Then Tertullian would have been born 100 years after that. And Tertullian says, "How happy is that church where Peter endured a passion like that of the Lord, where Paul was crowned in a death like John's." So this is just saying, Peter was crucified like Jesus was.
Yeah.
And also that Paul was killed like John by beheading, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually say. It doesn't say that he was upside down, and it also doesn't say why he was crucified. And also, who knows if he actually was, because it was 100 years after the fact, but,
Well, most of it, like the information back in the 1st and 2nd century, was passed down orally anyway.
Yeah, that's a problem. It's a problem for being able to verify some of these claims.
It is. But that's why I think the Christian faith isn't, you can't rest it purely on like an evidence-based system.
But I mean, sure, like maybe that's the case.
It's a composition of both taking in elements of evidence and elements of logic and elements of morality to try to have a robust faith.
So, one would think that if God were trying to spread this message, if Jesus were trying to actually get as many people to know that this is the case as that he was actually, that he came to bring salvation, why wouldn't he show up in the age of smartphones? Why would he show up in a time where basically nobody wrote things down unless it was like a war that was happening, and people 2,000 years from then would be very reasonably skeptical of the claims being made?
I don't know. I feel like that question is kind of pointless.
Well, I mean, like if the story is true, if the God claim is true, it just makes you think like he made a mistake in choosing that time.
You can make that argument, 2,000 years from now if we're still around.
Well, but nowadays we record everything, so it wouldn't be an issue even 2,000 years from now. They didn't record everything back then.
Be an issue.
Well, significantly less of an issue, right?
There's an argument to be made that if Jesus did come here and now, people still wouldn't believe. So
I think that we would see miracle clips on TikTok, and you would have billions of conversions overnight.
I don't believe that. I think people would think it's AI.
That's delusional then. Like that's okay. Then he could have shown up Then he could have shown up 5 years ago before we had AI issues. He could have shown up 5 years ago.
And then they would think it's CGI or it's like faked. You don't think there's all these like scientific or science-based, rationalists that would watch that video and not believe it?
Maybe they would be.
I think it's delusional to think that
But to be clear, that's not most people. That's not most people, to be clear.
Why that isn't like if there was a video of Jesus walking on water, then all of the rationalists would be like, "Oh yeah, this is fake. This is fake." To me,
I would think that the rational position to take. I mean, as somebody who you're probably grouping into that category, I'd be like, "Oh, I guess I'm Christian now."
No, you wouldn't. You're just saying that for the sake of the argument.
I mean, I've been pretty consistent in this, that like if Jesus, showed up in my living room or, came back today, I'd be a Christian. Like I've been pretty consistent in that view since I've been doing lives.
So what do you say about the videos of the Eucharistic miracles that exist?
Which ones? I haven't seen these.
The ones where like the host shed blood.
I'd have to see them. I haven't seen them.
And then and some of them have been these Eucharistic miracles get presented to the Vatican, and then they have to go through their process of investigating to confirm if this is like a real miracle or not, and that takes years, and some of them have been confirmed as real miracles.
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with these. I haven't seen them, so I can't really comment on them.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But what I'm saying is that like those videos and those things exist, and we don't have mass conversions happening.
Well, that's because there's a difference between the man being here and then like a cracker bleeding, right? Like those are kind of like wildly different, right?
We do have events that took place in I think it was in Mexico. I can't remember the actual location. It's either Central America or Mexico, where like 40,000 people witnessed the apparition of Mary and like all converted.
Yeah, so there you go. There you go then. It worked, right? That kind of thing works. That's very convincing.
But that was pre like sharing on phones.
Yeah, so why is it that
eyewitness.
So why do so many miracles happen before the invention of like small handheld recording devices?
They don't. There's Eucharistic miracles on camera, on cell phone.
Okay, let me go see if I can find it. Any particular one that you have in mind?
No.
How is that supposed to help me?
You can just research it later in the day. You don't have to do it right now.
All right. So anything else you want to talk about, or should I move on to the next guest?
I used to be an atheist.
Oh, you did?
Agnostic.
Really? What brought you over?
Yeah. I was swept. I was raised Catholic, but I always questioned because I'm.
But that doesn't make you an atheist, like an agnostic atheist, right?
No. I straight up said that this is not real. Like once I was in high school, I would my mom would still force me to go to church, and I would go.
It's just a phase, Mom.
I would just kind of.
So was it just a phase?
No, I I probably was like a self-proclaimed agnostic atheist from 16 to like 26. It was like 10 years.
Okay.
I'm 32 now, so
Okay.
I wouldn't say, I don't know if that
And what brought you back?
a phase, but like the moral argument and kind of the metaphysical lens of the Bible and of the church. And there is an element of like, what's the point of being, why be atheist agnostic? Like,
well,
in the
presumably,
end, what's the
if
point?
it's true,
just to get the W.
well, no, it's just because, like, I mean,
It's kind of
generally people like to believe true things, and so
boring
if
too.
you're convinced that it's true, then you should believe that. You should take that position, right?
But the
what moral
atheist
argument?
agnostic
I'm
position,
curious.
the moral argument is that if you're like a humanist, like a relative humanist, you're just, your morality basically is like fluctuates with whatever the current, moral landscape is. But
I mean, but that's not the only moral position you could take, right?
like,
You don't have to be like a cultural relativist.
well, I think if your morality is generally relative, then like you don't have any like
you don't have to be a relativist if you're an atheist.
Things. Like, what are the other positions? Are you not?
You can be a moral realist.
What is your moral realism?
So
I don't want to really go down this road, but we can.
Okay, no, we don't have to. Don't worry about it then. I was just curious what specifically, like was there just some epiphany that you're just like, huh, maybe I don't have any foundation for thinking why murder is wrong, and then you're like, well, I guess I'll go back to Jesus. I just want to know how that happened.
I think that you can rationalize why murder. You can rationalize away murder being wrong if you don't have any religious grounding.
But so then what was it that brought you to Jesus?
We are intelligent enough to rationalize it away. What?
But then what was it that brought you to Jesus? Like was there a specific event or what happened?
Like I said, it's a composition of the evidence. Which,
like, did somebody give you an argument, or
it's also the canonization of the Bible and how the Bible is like a what's the word? Like a hypertext, I guess.
Well, okay,
like
so maybe I should be more specific what I'm asking for. So
the Bible is a very well written document.
I mean, agree to disagree, but like that's not really what I'm asking for. So what I mean is I have some. So I've been well, like was there a moment where you're like, huh, I guess I was wrong?
No, there wasn't really a moment. It was kind of gradual. There was no like epiphany like moment. It was more just like, oh, like I'll be straight up, like this is kind of embarrassing, but it's the truth. There was a this is gonna sound so funny, but there was a Joe Rogan podcast episode, and it was one of the early Jordan Peterson before he kind of went crazy, and they went on like a tangent about Christianity, and this is when I was straight up atheist agnostic, and he spoke about Christianity in a way that I've never heard before. Like, if you grow up in a specific Christian, what I was always yearning for in my early life was like intelligence, essentially, and knowledge. And I thought, the Christian way of life was kind of like the simple, dumb way of like looking at the world. And I thought that people like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and quantum physics and quantum mechanics and those sort of things, like that, those were the smart people. They were the ones who knew what they were talking about, and they had the more intelligent worldview. And then when I heard Jordan Peterson, although Jordan Peterson, you could argue, is he really that intelligent? I think he is. He just kind of has some.
Did you see the Jubilee video
I heard
that
him
came out?
Yeah, well, they kind of. I think that was kind of messed up because I think they assumed Jordan Peterson was like a hardcore Christian or like he was like a devout, kind of hard stance Christian, and he's not.
Wait, do
And
you
I
mean that
think the
Jubilee thought
Jubilee
he
people
was?
brought him on, assumed. Yeah, because the original title of the video was One Christian versus 20
Yeah.
Atheists or whatever, and he's not Christian, so they.
But then
clearly
why did he agree to come on?
Like the Jubilee fucked up, and they. Because I don't think he realized he thought he was just going to defend against atheism, but not from a position of him being a Christian. Just
But he
from
knew
a
what the
position
title of the
being,
video
like,
was going to be.
Anti-atheist, and I don't know if that's if we know that.
So according to people who were there, he did.
I can't trust that.
Well, I mean, I'm friends with two of them.
Peterson is like the. Oh, you're friends with which two guys are you?
Danny and Ian, and I'm also like an acquaintance of Parker's.
Was it one that I was actually speaking?
Yeah. The three people who got like if you look up Peterson on X, if you look up Peterson on X, you will find 3 clips. Yeah. I know all of those guys.
Do you the guy with the glasses with the curly hair?
Curly hair and glasses. Yep, I know where he lives. I know what his job is. Yep.
I will say that I'm not smart enough to argue against that, but there are legitimate arguments against his position. But and then there's Parker, who I'm not really a big fan of Parker. He's a part of that like paid off Democrat liberal group of those young kids that.
Bob, did you get red pilled in 2018?
Who's the other guy? There's the one who.
Danny. The one that single-handedly.
I've always been pretty conservative.
Well, no, I mean like red pilled like in the Jordan Peterson way.
What do you mean? Like believing that men are like forgotten about in society?
Yeah, that whole thing.
Like his like kind of.
Was that like a wake up for you in 2018?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't really subscribe to like Peterson, like, all the way. I think there was things that he said that were smart and I like agreed with, but I wasn't like a huge Peterson fan. I've always been somewhat conservative though, like especially economically, but now with the current climate, I've kind of become more conservative, I would say. But this isn't a political debate.
No, it's not. We could get into that, but that's for another time. Look, my TikTok is like screwing up right now, and I don't know why.
We can switch.
I mean, it's people aren't here for that.
There was the guy who like was kind of an axe.
The young looking guy with
like,
you're nothing. Yeah, that's my good friend Danny, and
he's like, you're really something. He goes, well, you're really nothing.
I mean, when you say you're really something, you know that's an insult, right?
But to me, of course.
So, like, why isn't it okay if Danny responds in kind?
Because he kind of came pretty hostile. I think
not really. Like he said, "Nice to meet you." Like he started the conversation super polite.
Well, he tried to get him on like a Marian dogma argument, which didn't make any sense, and it had nothing to do with the prompt.
Sure it did, like, and I mean we can talk about it. But
it was something about worship.
Oh my God, is my TikTok gonna shut down in 30 seconds?
Catholicism. He wasn't.
But Jordan Peterson treats himself as a Catholic. That's the point.
If it shuts down,
That's the point. Jordan Peterson is interested. If he considers himself anything, he considers some. Well, he's gone to Catholic Mass before, recently.
His wife is Catholic. Because
oh my God,
his wife, who is.
I mean,
Catholic,
so
converted to Catholicism.
Yeah. So my TikTok's gonna close in 5 seconds, I think. But I can So this might be the end. This is the end, everybody. Wait, what just happened?
If you want.
Wait, no, nothing. We're still here.
What? If you need.
No, we're
Oh, it was a false alarm.
false alarm, I guess. I think.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Oh no. My live was discontinued. Okay, it's fine. It was TikTok live. I'll start it up again. Actually, maybe we'll end it roughly here. And I'll just go hop in somewhere else because the
I would
TikTok
like
live
to
just got
actually
ended.
keep talking with you.
Yeah. We can pick it up another time. But it is 10 o'clock.
Well, can we not just talk offline?
We could, but it's late for me. That's all.
For the vid?
No, it's late. And by the way, we're still streaming on YouTube. I live in Europe.
Are you East Coast?
I live in Europe.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I didn't know that. My bad.
Yeah. No, you're good.
You don't sound like you live in Europe.
Well, no, I'm American, obviously, but I'm actually moving back to the States in 4 days. So.
Oh, sweet.
Well, yeah, except moving sucks. I'm sure that you're familiar with. Moving is never fun.
Well, do you have like 10 or 15 minutes to chat a little bit? Just to,
yeah,
like,
sure. Sure.
All right.
The TikTokers will just be sad, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so
we can close out on the Jordan Peterson thing.
Yeah, so the thing about the Jordan
story, I guess.
Yeah, so the thing about the Jordan Peterson thing, like the reason why I think it was actually a fairly good critique is from Danny anyway, is that Jordan Peterson's definition of worship was essentially just prioritizing something, and then also sacrifice. But when Jordan Peterson says sacrifice, he means like put time into XYZ thing, like pay attention to. And so if that's your definition of worship, then Catholics worship Mary, because Catholics they revere her. They they say Hail Marys, right? That would be a form of sacrifice. You're sacrificing your time. They prioritize her above many other humans. So the reason why Danny brought this up is because essentially using Peterson's claim about how atheists worship something, under that same definition, Catholics worship Mary, but he would never want to say that, and that's why he got defensive, and that's why Danny got offensive.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I agree with the tactic. Like he was using basically this example of Mary in Catholicism to like get him on his definition of worship, which was smart, and it was correct. I do think though he came in with like kind of that. He was like he came in pretty aggressive with it.
Go rewatch the clip.
The whole thing.
I mean, he came in saying, "Hey, nice to meet you," blah 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 blah, and then he gave his definition, and then he started asking questions, and then when Jordan Peterson got evasive, that's when Danny got. I mean, like, by the way, Danny's a TikTok creator. He's a good friend of mine. He's very fun to watch. Like you should check him out.
I just think he could have been Danny could have stayed calm the whole time and not kind of retaliated, and it would have, to me, maybe it's just my personality, would have looked like an even bigger dub.
Maybe like, so it may have looked like a bigger dub, but it wouldn't have gotten 15 million views on Twitter, right?
Of course. I mean, if he's like a TikToker and he's like an entertainer, he's gonna do what he has to do
but I mean, like,
getting the clip is paramount.
And but like, so to be clear, so Danny is a very, like, I've known Danny for a while. Like we're offline friends separately from just TikTok, right?
Right.
And so he is very what's the word? I want to say something that won't make him sad. Impulsive, I should say. He didn't plan out that conversation at all. What happened, I'm sure. He
came in knowing he was going to hit that argument, and then whatever happens.
Yeah, basically, he's a bit hot-headed, and he doesn't suffer idiots. And he saw Jordan Peterson being Weasley. He saw him being like Weasley with his definitions, and then he wouldn't even admit to being a Christian on a live or on a video about Christians versus atheists. And I think that set him off, like which is reasonable.
Jubilee fucked up though, because Jordan Peterson is like the weakest possible Christian apologist you could like.
I agree. They should have brought on like Chris Connectly or whatever his name is, or whatever the Connectly guys are.
No, fuck no.
Or maybe Trent Horn, or
yeah, you bring in like a Trent Horn, or you bring in like a. You could. It would be very entertaining if they did Sam Shamoon, but that would.
Yeah, maybe.
do that for the entertainment because he would be hilarious. Or
Well, I think that
don't-
the thing is they try to bring in like an expert as the one person, right? And Jordan P and like Sam Shamoon, despite how how much of a YouTube personality he is, I don't think anybody would call him like an expert, right? At least the Connectly or the Connectly family, like they're like actual preachers that have been doing this for like decades, and similarly, Trent Horn has been involved in this for a very, very long time, and he's like somewhat respected, right? Sam Shamoon is like a YouTube personality, right?
Right. Yeah, I like, and Jordan Peterson isn't like a debater. He doesn't.
Well, it kind of is. He just doesn't. He's just bad at debating Christianity. That's all. He's done debates before.
He does, but he has done quote unquote debates, but he doesn't do formal debates. He's not like a Trent Horn debater where like that's his thing. Yeah, like Peterson has been a part of debates, but like his whole thing is not to like. He even said it on the damn Jubilee thing. He's like, I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to explore like these ideas.
Well, then he shouldn't have agreed, right?
I don't disagree. Like, I think he shouldn't have even gone on the show. I don't know why he did. But like to me, that's like, it's hard to watch that as a Christian because you're just like, fuck, man, you got the worst person possible.
That's why they changed that. That's why they changed the name, right? Because everybody, all of the like you'd think that like the atheists would make fun of Jordan Peterson because of course they would, but the Christians were mad about it too.
Of course, because Christians don't even think he's a Christian.
Yep.
He's not really.
And he couldn't and he couldn't admit that he was. So
right. That's not good. You're already not in a good spot. And so all of the atheist agnostics who aren't really, going to give Christians any benefit of the doubt are going to watch that video and just be like, yeah, why would I ever consider a Christian, idea, basically, if this is what represents a Christian.
Yep, it was it was good for clicks though. Jordan Peterson brings in a lot of clicks. I think I'm sure the video has several million views by now.
That also, I would say that Jubilee format fucking sucks. I hate it.
The only time I like it is when my friends are on it.
Yeah, like I hate the flag concept.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
These people start to like get into good ideas or a good conversation or a good argument, and then the flags go up and then they can't close it out, and you're just like sitting there like, well, damn, I wish they would have like.
One thing that I did notice, which was kind of remarkable actually, is among all of the groups, the atheists flagged the least. I think they only had like 6 or 7 people in the entire time, and most of them got like 5+ minutes.
They did good. They did want to. It was much better than some of the other.
Yeah, sometimes like people would get like, but like, did you see the one with Dr. Mike and the anti-vaxxers?
No.
So do you know who Dr. Mike is?
Dr. Mike? No.
He's like he's a physician.
I'm in the vaccine business.
No, he's not. He's not a he's a physician who also does like, he teaches about like medicine on YouTube. He's like a medical YouTuber, right?
But I'm saying it's funny because I am in the vaccine.
Yeah.
I haven't watched this video.
So they brought on a bunch of anti-vaxxers, and they were like gone within 30 seconds. And it's because they all hear, like every single anti-vaxxer hears the other anti-vaxxers and thinks that person's so stupid.
Yep.
Right.
And they
anyway,
don't like the argument, and they get all mad.
Right, but then, and they all think that about each other. Anyway, yeah. So like it, just to get back on topic, it kind of does seem like you got red pilled by Jordan Peterson back into Catholicism.
I mean, it was that like clip from the Joe Rogan Experience that made me go back and like actually read like early Christian apologists. Like I started reading Thomas Aquinas stuff, and that kind of made me realize like, oh, there are actually like intelligent Christians. Or
not Thomas Aquinas. Thomas Aquinas is the worst.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. It's so dumb. What? He doesn't use language in a sensible way. Anyway, that's a conversation for a separate time. I have to go.
All right.
But actually, I would highly recommend. There are a bunch of other TikTok creators who do lives on YouTube and on TikTok that you might enjoy talking to. These people that are. No, but you seem like you're interesting to talk to at least. And it's not a matter of like being it. So like, you know, you've talked with me. I'm generally a pretty chill guy. I don't do like a lot of like the rage bait stuff.
Gotchas.
Yeah, at least I try not to. You'll find a few of those, but some of them are just more like a mirror. Somebody in the comments mentioned this. Like Danny, as much as you may, as from what you've seen of him, he seems like he's like, you know, hair trigger. But like if you come at him like calm and normal, he'll be calm and normal. But if you come at him hot, he'll come at you hot. Anyway, so I would just recommend, you know, shop around. You might see some people that are interesting to talk to, because you seem like an interesting guy to talk to anyway.
One problem is that I'm not on TikTok. I found you on YouTube Shorts.
All of us are also on YouTube, turns out.
Oh, okay.
In fact, one of them's on YouTube right now. I think his name is Ian, allegedly Ian.
Okay.
He's
I probably should go too anyway.
That's fair. That's fair.
I always enjoy having conversations with atheist agnostics.
Yeah, sure.
It's always good to be open-minded and get challenged.
Yeah, likewise.
So.
Thanks for being here, Bob.
Yep. Same
Take
to you.
care.
Bye.
All right, to everybody who's watching on YouTube, because we're not live on TikTok anymore, make sure that you hit follow or subscribe, whatever the button is. I don't know when I'll see you next on YouTube, to be honest, because I got to hand in my computer and then I got to get a new one before I can live stream on YouTube again. So I'll see you when I see you. If you want to catch me, you'll have to catch me on TikTok, at least for the next week.